There's Ron. Please welcome to the stage, everyone, Ron Perlman. Come on, Ron. Join. Oh, margarita in hand. Good. There you go. Microphone. Thank you, Ron.
Cheers. Hello, Ross. You bugger.
I'm going to jump straight in, Ron.
Did you explain the movie?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you.
That's for sure.
So tell me, Ron, why did you do the film? Why did you do Ross's film?
I have no idea. Can you remember what it was that I was thinking of?
A third margarita.
Somewhere, it probably was the third at least, or the fourth.
Yeah, you're being really off camera, Ross. He was just now doing an interview where he said a lot of it was to do with the spirit of you, that this idea, the passion that you were bringing to it. It was a truly first feature independent project, and you felt that was something that you could really believe in. Although
I never said any of that
yes,
bullshit.
you so did, and we've got it on camera. So you're locked into that. Nicole, tell me how you got involved in the project.
Well, I came upon the script, I read it, and then I read the book, and then I read the script again, and then I asked Ross a million questions about it to further understand it, and I auditioned for it, and I was so honored that Ross was happy to cast me as Desiree. I thought she was such a wonderful character. I loved that I got to play a fortune teller, palm reader, New Orleans native person. It was so fun.
I'm dying to know what Ross is like as a director. Can you both tell me about a day on set? What's it like? Is it all
You want to hear about a good day or a bad
shouting?
They were all good days.
Give us both.
Nice. He's adorable.
Okay, now the real story.
First day, was I there the first day of the film? He wore a suit and tie, and that's all I needed to know. Yeah, this is a guy who came to work with nothing but respect and regard for what he was about to do. I to this day don't know what the goddamn movie's about, and I'm not shy to share that with you. If anybody here has any idea, you can see me in the lobby.
Yeah,
outside.
we'll talk about it at the party afterwards. We'll explain it.
So no, the only reason I got involved in the film was Ross's enthusiasm and his passion for the material. There was something about his approach to it all that was really infectious, and that I knew was going to make for an enriching experience in the short time we were making this film, because it was not low budget, it was no budget, right? Is that how you describe it? That's not how you describe it? Well, I'm here to describe things completely differently from Ross.
I was going to say, your background is different.
That's also what drew me to the project as well, if I can just jump in.
Yeah, please.
From the minute I started speaking to Ross about it, he was just so passionate about it that also, like Ron said, it was infectious. He would send me pictures of set and different locations we'd be shooting in New Orleans, and different wardrobe choices for Desiree, so I could better imagine who this character is that I'd be creating with him. And I just jumped on board with it as well, learning how to read palms a bit and buying my own deck of tarot cards and things. So that was really fun, diving in as much as possible along with him for the project.
I can really imagine that in the time that we've been discussing screening at the festival. You've been all over every element of this screening, which just shows me how invested you are in the whole film. But how much does you optioned a book, you wrote the screenplay yourself, how much did that fit into a film that you already envisaged that you wanted to make? Or was it the book that kind of inspired you to make this film? Tell me about it.
I mean, the book inspired me to make the film, but the real there were two things I think that ultimately changed everything, which one is New Orleans, which I think is a very similar place to East London in that it's very independent. It has a great spirit. It's very cultural. It punches way above its weight in the world, and the people are drunk half the time and in bed the other half, and fun most of the time. So that changed everything, and going there helped. I kind of reinvented the script a bit because I was inspired by pretty much everything to do with New Orleans from.
But the book isn't set in New Orleans.
No,
it's
the book
kind
is
of
set.
non-specified
It's
city in
California, but California is kind of not the place it was. I think it's set in a California that people remember from the 90s, a bit like, Portlandia is like from the 90s. And New Orleans still has that resistance. I mean, Ron's got the Defend New Orleans t-shirt on. And it's not really like any other place in America. And I think that allowed us to kind of reimagine things.
There's
quite
loads of
significantly.
Katrina references in it, so you
Yeah.
have made it very localised and personal to New Orleans. Can you tell me about some of those kind of deliberate additions that weren't actually in the book that you brought into the screenplay, into the film?
I mean, most of the things that Walton is talking about, which may or may not make sense to you, but most of the all the names he mentions are to do with what happened after Katrina. And in my mind, and I don't think anyone else would necessarily get this, but those references are because Joseph's kind of second trauma, his first trauma is in his childhood, his second trauma is from Katrina, from Memorial Hospital. If you go and look up Memorial Hospital, or Passenger Bridge, or all these things, there were some, the police kind of committed a number of atrocities after Katrina, and they're all referenced. And it's an important part of the history of the city, and it's an important part of why New Orleans is what it is today, because, that's, for me, that was the underbelly of that.
Can I ask you, Ron, what do you think of New Orleans and how was filming there? Tell me
That's
about
why
the
you did the
conditions.
film, isn't it? In fact.
Yeah, that was when he said we're going to do this in New Orleans and we're going to re-engineer the piece. If I was wavering, which I don't really think I was, but that was the final lure. New Orleans is kind of the most nonsensical place I've ever been in my life. It's built 5 feet below sea level, so it's an accident waiting to happen. I mean, that incident that was Katrina was, inevitable. I mean, some big event is going to come, and those walls are going to, fail, and so people are living there in a kind of a constant state of irrationality, and it makes for when you're someplace that exists on a purely visceral level, where it's about food and music and sex and just partying and like Ross says, staying stoned, half the time. It becomes a perfect bridge toward a cinematic adventure or experience like Dermaphoria is meant to be. There's a kind of an irrationality to it all that informs this desire to lead a life that's larger than you. It's celebratory, and whenever I find out I'm going to New Orleans, I just it's one of those places that I pack faster and I get to the airport faster, and I can't wait to get there. And I'm making my first movie down there. The first movie I'm going to direct will be in New Orleans as well. So I probably haven't made any sense, but if you get a chance, go.
I mean, it's like New Orleans is almost like a character in the movie. And I mentioned earlier about Angel Heart. It was a film that it kind of brought to my mind when I saw it. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the motifs? There's a lot of repeat motifs in Angel Heart with the fans and so on. Can you tell? I noticed there was a few in your film. Could you tell me about those?
To use in the film. And then there's the lights, I guess, that are to do with, everything goes back to his childhood. Those 3 or 4 scenes of his childhood are really about what makes him who he is. So you know, his father taught him about alcohol and the stars, and what else do you need to know?
Well, I think you've done a good job of evoking a kind of feeling of New Orleans tonight, because everyone is dripping here.
Yeah. We were a
Perfect.
lot
Hottest
hotter.
day of the year to be screening it. And I hear that on set, Nicole, Ron, I hear that it was like 110 degrees for like every day that you were filming. Tell me what it was actually like on set filming in those conditions.
It was a bit hot as well. I think the way that at least I dealt with it was to not even think about it, just accept that you will have a sweat the entire time. But it appeared as a glow on film, so it worked out, I guess.
You all have I have like one distinct memory of each director I work with as the moment that defines what makes them different from any other director. And with Ross, it was when the makeup artist was about to apply some Kleenex to my forehead. He said, "Now leave it." Remember that? I want to see the sweat. I mean, that's part of the experience. Is that everybody's just constantly, like you get out of the shower and you need another one.
It must have been quite intense. It was, I believe, an 18-day shoot, you said. So that's a short shoot, isn't it? Like, how did this compare? Ron, can I ask you, who's been on a number of films over the years, what was the difference, like, with this particular production compared to some of the others that you've worked on?
Yeah, strangely enough, I mean, the whole, one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to movies that resemble their Euphoria in the way that they're executed is because when you have a limited amount of resources, everybody is forced to be at their very best and to work in a more economical and efficient way than they ever would if they had all this stuff languished on them. And I've never seen cynicism on a low-budget independent film, but I have seen it in large measure on every studio film I've done. I've never seen anybody looking at their watches. I've never seen anybody yawning. I've never seen anybody longing to go home. All I see is people just like busting their asses to make the day and to get the impossible to become possible. And you're working at on a level that's so much more engaging and so much more mystifyingly, innocent and passionate and everything like that. That it's, I just remember the Dermaphoria shoot as being like that, like the one like I'm describing, and I'm addicted to that, and I look for experiences like that. These margaritas are really strong. This is the least sense I've ever made in a Q&A.
Well, I actually think that's such an accurate description of what it was like working in New Orleans. It was my first time visiting, and I did my best to get to learn about the city that I was in and the people. And I think from everyone on the crew, on the set, everyone was working so hard for the film, for it to come all together. But I think that's such an accurate description of everyone in New Orleans, too, the way that they've worked so hard to rebuild their lives after the storm. I got the chance to talk to a few people, and they were so incredibly strong, and they had such a positive attitude about it all. It was quite remarkable.
Ross, can I ask you for one anecdote, because we've spoken about this already, from the film, and also then to tell us where it goes next. What's the story? What's the life that we're going to expect from the film?
Is this an anecdote we've already spoken about? Because I can't remember.
Yeah, there was one film. Well, we were basically talking about the difference between the idea of kind of filming in a studio, and actually you didn't really use any sets apart from one, which was the interview room, and also flipped over became the strip joint. Yeah. And I believe that was the only set that you used. So you were out in the streets of New Orleans, you were telling me.
Yes,
yeah.
okay, I know. Sorry, yes, it's coming back to me. It doesn't reflect particularly well on me, I don't think, the story, but we spent all day on Canal Street, which is the main thoroughfare through New Orleans, and it's pretty rough, and people said, don't shoot on Canal Street, don't shoot on Canal Street. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Of course, there was a gospel conference at one end of the street, so that helped with the sound, and then there were kind of drug dealers and all kinds of other people at the other, and trying to get money from us. And by the end of that day, it had been 110, there'd been 2 thunderstorms, and 110, sorry, Fahrenheit, I don't know what that is in C, I don't know. But anyway, so basically, I remember sitting on an apple box, and they were shooting, and I just said to my DP, I don't give a fuck what this shot is, just do it, because I need to go home. And then Peggy will remember I went home and told her that I wasn't going back to set ever again, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And then I woke up the next day and said, yeah, this is great, let's do it again. So, but the heat definitely sends you balmy, but if you can go there and not work or not work quite as hard, you would have the best time ever. So, yeah.
And what are you hoping that people that have sat here and watched the film, and this is its world premiere, what are you hoping that everyone's taking away from the film?
I mean, I don't want to tell anyone what to take away from the film other than to say that it's not. We live in a time where films and content is about a lot of clarity, and it's very put it in a box, and you can know exactly what it is. And I don't want to tell you what it is. If you like it or don't like it, I think that there is the thing I'm proudest of, other than the acting. To be frank, I think the acting is incredible, and I think it looks beautiful. But those things together are part of the poetry of the film, which is different to the prose of a film, and I think that's what I wanted to achieve most of all, was a kind of a love poem to New Orleans as much as anything. And Desiree represented what Eric loved, and I think that's what I would love people to take away, because I don't think there is cinema out there. There's films like Upstream Colour, and which I love that film, and there's many other films that try and do that, but less and less we see those kind of movies. Yeah. And there's cinematic, and people watch movies on phones, and I don't want to sound like a old bastard, which I am, but this is how you should watch a film. And Genesis is great because it's an independent cinema. This festival is great because it's an independent festival, and that's why this film fits it.
And we're really, really delighted. And we're really, really delighted and very, very proud to be opening the East End Film Festival with Dermaphoria. Please give a huge round of applause to Ross Clarke, and Ron Perlman. Okay, guys, Trapeze Bar, let's party. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.